Hi everyone, and welcome to my mystery series. Today I would like to talk about the Titanic and the conspiracies surrounding her sinking. Just a warning that although this video has been designed for kids, the information presented is a little advanced. The Titanic was a luxury steamship that hit an iceberg in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and sank in 1912. It was her first maiden voyage, but ultimately it was also her last. It departed from Southampton in England on the 10th of April 1912 and was due to make her way to New York, making multiple stops along the way, including France and Ireland. The Titanic had three classes of accommodation on board: first, second, and third class. The third class tickets were the most affordable, some costing less than $20 to make the full trip. There were more than 700 third class passengers on board, which actually meant that there were more third class passengers than first and second class passengers combined. The numbers I mention here vary from source to source. So Titanic could carry approximately 2,435 passengers. However, Titanic only had 16 lifeboats on board, which was enough to safely carry 1,178 people. So this meant that there was nowhere near enough lifeboats for all on board. At the time, it wasn't actually law that ships were to carry enough lifeboats for everyone on board. And given that this ship at the time was advertised as practically unsinkable, a lot of people felt that by having lifeboats on the decking of the ship, it was essentially a waste of space. So it didn't seem to really bother anyone at the time. On the 14th of April 1912, after 4 days of an uneventful journey, 3 ships sent out reports of ice. The Titanic actually only received one of these 3 messages. At around 11:30 p.m. that night, one of the lookouts spotted an iceberg. They alerted staff to reverse the ship engines and to make a sharp turn to avoid direct impact, but unfortunately it was too late. It was estimated at the time that the ship had about an hour and a half before it would completely sink. The captain ordered the lifeboats to be loaded. It was law at the time for women and children to be loaded into lifeboats first. Men were only permitted to enter the lifeboats if there were no women or children nearby. So Captain Edward Smith ordered a distress signal to be sent out. It was received by the Carpathia, which was another ship floating nearby. However, the Carpathia did not arrive for 4 hours, which ended up being an hour after the Titanic had completely sunk. Amazingly, the Titanic managed to stay afloat for 3 hours before sinking to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Just over 700 people managed to survive the sinking. Approximately 1,500 people lost their lives that night. I have included Titanic in my mystery series as there are actually a number of conspiracy theories surrounding the sinking of the so-called unsinkable ship. One of these theories is in relation to a mummy on board the ship. In the late 1890s, a rich man from England visited the archaeological digs in Egypt. He purchased a coffin containing the mummy of a princess. He arranged for it to be sent to his home. However, he disappeared, never to be seen again. By the time the coffin arrived in England, it was purchased by another wealthy businessman. This man and members of his household were involved in some very unlucky circumstances upon receiving this artifact, which convinced the man that the mummy was bad luck. and it became well known as the Unlucky Mummy. So he decided to donate the princess mummy to the British Museum. The museum staff reported hearing lots of strange noises coming from the coffin, such as loud banging and crying, which only ever happened at night. Other artifacts within the exhibit were moved or thrown around without any explanation. No one wanted to purchase the Unlucky Mummy, as it became nicknamed for a long time due to these circumstances. Eventually, an archaeologist who didn't believe in curses or bad luck purchased the mummy and coffin, and it is said that it was sent back to America on board the Titanic. So one of the conspiracy theories floating around is that the mummy actually caused the ship to sink. One of the other popular theories is that the Titanic actually never sank. The theory is that the ship that did sink was in fact her sister, the Olympic. So many people believe the ship was sunk so that they could claim money on their insurance due to the Olympic already being damaged in an accident with another ship the year before Titanic made her maiden voyage. So the Olympic had her maiden voyage in 1911. She even had the same captain as Titanic, Captain Edward Smith. So here are a few things that have been alleged to support the idea that Titanic was in fact the Olympic in disguise. So number one, 5 days before her maiden voyage, it is alleged that Titanic's insurance value was increased. So after she sank, Titanic's owner, J.P. Morgan, received around $12.5 million. Many believed that the White Star Line company was losing money and that this compensation was to assist them in avoiding bankruptcy. On the 20th of September 1911, the year before the Titanic left for her maiden voyage, her sister, the Olympic, had been involved in an accident with another ship, the HMS Hawke. This meant that the Olympic had to be taken out of service, which resulted in Titanic's maiden voyage being delayed from the 20th of March to the 10th of April while the Olympic was being repaired. As a result, the White Star Line was also losing revenue as the Olympic was not operating, and they also lost money due to the accident. When the Titanic was photographed, it had 14 evenly spaced portholes. However, this number changed by the time it left Southampton. In a photo taken on the exact same area of the ship, which I will show you a photo in this video, it now had 16 unevenly spaced portholes. So as you can see in the photo, there is a very clear difference. Number 3, the names of the ships had been riveted on as nameplates. As welding had not yet been invented, it was customary for ship companies to etch or cut the names of their liners into the steel. However, both the RMS Olympic and the RMS Titanic had their names riveted on with letter plates. This has raised the idea that the nameplates were potentially covering up the original names of the ships beneath them. There are also some pictures circulating in the community, which I have seen myself. They are said to have been from Titanic's wreckage and allegedly lost some of the letters over the years, which has uncovered different letters beneath them consistent with the spelling of Olympic. So that's an interesting fact to think about. Number 4, Titanic's sea trials were much shorter than that of her sister Olympics. Basically, ships have sea trials to test them in the water and see how they run, checking for leaks as well as any problems that need to be fixed prior to their first voyage. The Olympics sea trials took 2 days, which included several tests running at high speed. Titanic's sea trials only lasted 1 day and no trials ran over half speed. Some people consider this to be because they knew the ship had damage to the hull, couldn't handle long periods of high speed, and they didn't want to delay the maiden voyage of the ship. More than 50 first-class passengers, this is number 5, more than 50 first-class passengers cancelled their trip on the Titanic at the last minute. Many of these people were friends of J.P. Morgan, who was the owner of the ship. JP Morgan also cancelled his trip claiming he was ill, yet 2 days later was found on a holiday by the media with his family. He also removed several expensive statues from the ship just 1 hour before it was due to depart. There are dozens of other theories to support the notion that the Olympic actually replaced the Titanic. Feel free to research this further if you are interested. If you would like to find out more about the Titanic, you will find a lot of information online, and there are many books and old newspaper articles available at your local library. We may never really know the truth about the sinking of the Titanic. What do you think? You decide. Thanks for watching.